back in October, my boyfriend had a fun and quirky idea for me. He wanted to fight the Zaros general next in the Godwars dungeon of Old School Runescape. Despite being an MMO, Runescape can often feel more like a single player game that everyone else is playing together but separately. With all the private instances and solo content these days, anytime you're asked to interact with your fellow players, it can feel more like a chore than a game to most. For us, it's rare to find content that's worth doing as a group that he can't just do by himself. With that being said, it's also rare to find content that I can actually keep up with.
Oh my, Taryn.
What? What's wrong?
You're wearing a beekeeper's hat.
Oh my god. Oh. I am face palming so
How did that happen?
Learning a mechanically intensive boss fight with my soft idlescape brain is a tall order. I have a decent chunk of time invested in my character, but no one shows you the pie chart that breaks down how much of that is picking herbs and AFKing redwoods. Either way, I agreed to this grand idea 6 months ago, and hours of practice and millions of coins later, well, the two of us still haven't managed to do it.
I'm feeling good about this attempt. I want to make a good first impression, you know what I mean? I'm getting absolutely bludgeoned over here. Ouch. I'm dead. I'm dead.
You see, this certainly is a group boss, but there's no limit to what size the group can be. For most players, the meta is to do this in mass with like 100 other people. The next best strat is a smaller 5-man team. If you're really good, you might even try to trio it. Unfortunately, this isn't an open relationship, so our grand plan was to learn to duo.
Glazie's currently immune to your attacks, so she didn't say it. But you were out of bruise anyways, so I'm not going to fault myself as a coach in that moment. That was not my fault. I mean, it was, but I mean, it was kind of, it was over before it started.
So sure that I was like,
I just look
I
at,
must be insane, but
listen,
all I'm seeing
I
is
look at the
zeros.
numbers and I make decisions.
What comes next is the pain and suffering we endured when my boyfriend decided to buy a girlfriend for next. And let's just say he ended up paying a hell of a lot more than 10K.
We shall go together.
Let me explain a little something to you about being in a relationship. It's all about give and take. So for example, I'll go on Pinterest every now and again and we'll end up eating salad out of a mason jar for like a week. On the other hand, he'll go on the RuneScape wiki and come back with the idea of doing a group boss in budget gear with what is essentially 1.5 players. It's a tough sell when we're deciding on how to relax at the end of a busy work week. Wanna watch a movie? Nah. Let's go fight an angel of death in a frozen jail cell, get mad at each other, and lose a bunch of money.
I don't know what to say about that one.
Speaking of money, like most things in this game, the main reason for trying to do this is money. This all came about because my boyfriend has given himself the impossible task of trying to save up for a twisted bow while having the major handicap of simultaneously funneling half of his funds into my account's progression. I'd hate to see the figures of how much wealth has been handed over to me during the lifespan of my account, but in a strange twist of fate, learning to kill this boss might just be my best chance to finally work off some of these loans. Wow, for a solid 30 seconds. I had 3 health.
Crazy. Way to stay in it.
I agreed to do the stupid idea, but under the condition that he pays for it. He purchases the boss instances, puts the supply bills, and loans me the equipment I was missing. It takes money to make money after all. Obviously, this only puts him further away from his coveted longbow, but the gambling addict in him can't help but take risks. The nice thing about loaning items to your girlfriend is you never have to worry about her running off with them. All it takes is getting one single drop to turn this all around. Of course, at this point in time, getting a single kill would be more than a dozen T-bows.
Tear Bear. He's a wannabe Terran girl. And I'm just not Tarny at this point. But like, barring the fact that my friend Tear Bear here hasn't really engaged in that much content outside of the giant mole and Barrows, which is respectable, don't get me wrong. He has 1,600 next kills, Taryn, as opposed to you and I, who have 0.
I've gone on record saying that Old School Runescape is the game you play while you're doing literally anything else. Whether it's spinning bowstrings or fighting dragons, this game lives in perpetual eternity on my second monitor while I paint my nails and watch YouTube videos. The reason I bring this up is because fighting this boss is anything but second monitor material. Old School Runescape is an idle game insofar as you don't start trying to do crazy stuff like this.
If I could have gone one tile further, I would have dodged it, but I'm looking at the recording and like so I had to go, what is this? This is west. I had to go west and then I could get that tile.
I swear to God, if I hear him say 5-tick or true tile one more time, I'll save you all my square rant for another time. But to sum it up, in this game, we're all just a bunch of squares living on and off the grid. Okay, so you may be asking yourself, what the hell even is an X? To put it bluntly, she's an endgame boss that dropped the best melee armor in the game. It's a 5-phase endurance fight that can get prolonged thanks to lifesteal and requires understanding of some of the most intricate mechanics of the game to get a handle on. That is unless you do it in a massive group, in which case you can kill the boss so fast you don't have to learn a damn thing and can just cross your fingers that an eventual drop is in your name. And Nex is already on the blood phase!
Yeah, they're cruising.
It literally just started!
They're all ruby specking.
Oh, so they just stand around the corners and just ruby spec?
From what I understand, it's just a big clusterfuck of ruby bolts.
This was a tough sell, and I'm talking beyond the whole fight a hard boss and budget gear that was meant for hundreds of players thing. Just to get into the boss room, you have to get kill count of the followers of Zaros outside the entrance. Next is located in the Godwars dungeon, a war centuries old between the different disciples of RuneScape's many gods. Enemies will remain non-aggressive so long as you wear pieces of equipment that show your loyalty to their respective gods. So each attempt involves gearing up at the bank with full god protection, which is essentially the RuneScape equivalent of wearing one of those coexist bumper stickers.
Coexist?
Yeah, I think both.
Why have two of the same sticker?
Because the stickers are coexisting with each other.
Kill count involved getting 40 kills of a specific faction. In our case, Nex belongs to Zaros. The good news is that Zaros followers give multiple points per kill, although I have no idea why. It's probably in the lore or something, but who cares? The time it takes to get KC adds up pretty quickly though, and the two of us don't have a lot of time to throw attempts. Usually we'll get 2 or 3 on a Friday night and call it good for the week. I already spent all week sitting in front of a computer for work, so I'm not trying to sit in my room all weekend clicking potions and prayers when I finally get some time to myself.
What the hell is Vicky? Not Vicky. Wait a minute, this person is not Vicky and I am not Tarny. Is this my alter ego? I thought you were my alter ego.
Another thing about Nex is that she'll focus her aggression on the weakest player in a group. What that means is that unless the two of us are wearing the exact same equipment, one of us will get picked on way more than the other. Lacking the funds for better gear makes me the easier target, which sucks because I'm already less confident player between the two of us. Originally, our workaround was to have him scale back his equipment to be closer to my price range and match me, but eventually he got impatient and coughed up the money for me to buy my own set of Masori so I can match him. My debt continues to grow. I appreciate the new outfit, but it also makes dying a lot more stressful. I just died. Fuck. Both were on me and Nex started meleeing me. For those who don't already know, you drop all your stuff when you die in RuneScape. For reasons which I can only assume are just to be confusing, death mechanics work differently all over the game. Most times when you die, your items end up at a gravestone and you have to retrieve them for a fee. You can die as many times as you want as long as you make it back to the grave in 15 minutes. Simple enough, right? Well, unfortunately, in some very specific cases, items will go to a chest on death near a boss store, which once again can be retrieved for a price. Now, it may not seem all that different, but what's scary about death chests is that if you die a second time before getting your stuff out, then it disappears forever. Hundreds of hours of grinding out boss drops can all disappear thanks to a laggy internet connection. I wonder if my ISP can reimburse me for any of this.
You need to make this right!
If that wasn't bad enough, to get to Nex's boss chest, you have to run through a literal war zone. If you remember, re-equipping full god protection turns this war zone into a piece of natural history, but forgetting even one piece can be a very expensive accident. After failed attempts, we usually have a post-attempt powwow where we discuss why we got our asses handed to us. Although when I die, he is not allowed to say a word until I get all my stuff back. It stresses me out enough having gear in the death chest, but I refuse to be responsible for losing gear worth hundreds of millions of his hard-earned coins. Okay, let me get my stuff and I'll tell you everything. Dying often means losing a world too, which also sucks. Worlds are on a first-come, first-served basis, so unfortunately, every time one of us dies, it's pretty much a coin toss if it'll be waiting for us when we get back. That is unless you rent a private instance for the low price of 150,000 coins. Many people wouldn't bother with private instances since the fees can add up pretty quickly, but the two of us value our time a lot more than a measly 150k of his money.
Alright, I'm renting a private. Please do not accidentally crash these gentlemen.
What'll usually happen is a group of 4 to 5 players in max gear will stake their claim on our home world and have it locked down for most of the evening. We already know we can't compete with them for the world, so we're happy to pay up the rental fee. But the funny thing is they don't know that. It must just be so unfathomable to an efficient player that someone would waste money running a room. But I can assure you, we're having a lot more fun doing it this way.
It's not about money. It's about sending a message.
One of my favorite things to do is to buff. is to buff up right in front of the Max boys and march right through the front door of my boyfriend's private instance. It never fails to make me laugh as they start crying. As they start crying and freaking out that the world is already taken. I gotta get my kicks somehow, and scaring the shit out of a bunch of Max players with thousands of kills tickles me pink. I just love the idea. I just love the idea that they think they're getting crashed by a duo in welfare gear. I can promise I've never crashed a world. I can promise I've never crashed a world, but he's convinced I'm probably on some clan chat's watch list somewhere.
Remember, we're doing private. I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep saying it. Crashers? Oh my god. That was amazing.
That never gets old.
That was hilarious.
They're rushing in, they're like, get them, and then they will come in and it's like an empty room. It's just
Careful,
like,
there's 2 people in welfare gear trying to crash us. Oh my god.
We say it's taken us 6 months, but this has been something we've chipped away at when we have the time. It doesn't matter how long this takes us, it's something we've been getting better and better at and trying to learn from. Going weeks in between attempts wasn't exactly helping with the whole learning through repetition thing though. It often feels like 3 steps forwards and 2 steps back. He's got a lot more experience with the game and knows how learning these fights work, and if it was up to him, we do a few attempts each night. But I just don't have the stamina for that. He assures me he'd rather do it with me than without me. But let's be honest, he doesn't have a choice anyways.
Look, she's confused.
She's
She's
confused.
moonwalking because she's dumb. Oh, hi, next.
Part of what makes this boss so lucrative is the barrier to entry. It takes a lot of knowledge about this game and its mechanics to pull off a duo, especially with zero experience fighting next before. Good equipment and teammates who already know the boss go a long way to getting a learner acclimated, but we have next to no friends who play this game with us. What we lack in wealth, we make up for in teamwork, or at least that's what we keep telling ourselves. We decided to topple this challenge the same way we topple every challenge, and that's by knocking our heads together until something works.
come back in.
I'm gonna spec her
Spec
where
like a
it hurts.
mofo.
RuneScape is a weird game because your HP is capped at 99. That means that when fighting a boss with a special attack that has a max hit of 75, you better make sure you're not on the receiving end of it. Damage like this is entirely avoidable if you play correctly, but the reality is getting hit by something a few times is usually the price for learning how to avoid it.
Huh?
It killed me.
No.
Along with the boss, there are 4 minions in the room with her, each one a mage that specializes in one of the 4 elements: smoke, shadow, blood, and ice. During the fight, Nex will imbue herself with the power of one of her 4 minions, and in order to progress to the next phase of the fight, you have to defeat that respective minion. I'll go over each phase and their special attacks to give you an idea of what a fight with Nex looks like, and more importantly, show you how many opportunities I have to screw things up.
Shit. Fuck.
Do I need to leave? What happened?
Yeah, leave. I died.
In the first phase, Nex uses smoke magic, which can poison us, but fortunately we usually sip an anti-poison before going into the fight. Along with her spells, she'll occasionally throw slaps at whoever she's facing. Using protection prayers helps mitigate some of the damage, but the dangerous thing about Nex is that prayers only dampen the pain since she hits through them. But that being said, the real danger of each phase is her special attacks. She'll always alternate between 2 for each element she uses, and in the smoke phase, it's her cough and dash.
Her next is trying to find escape, and after looking around, she decided there was no escape.
There was not a singular one.
The cough is given to one player, and if they step next to another, it spreads to them. Much like real life, whenever I get a cough, he doesn't want me anywhere near him. Now, I've never had the privilege of fighting Nex in masses, but I have to imagine it's just a bunch of dudes coughing on each other while firing crossbows for the entire fight. The problem with having the cough is that it drains your stats, and more importantly, your prayer. Even though Nex hits through it, keeping defensive overhead prayers on the entire fight is pretty much required to get a kill. So coughing up all these prayer restore potions leaves a sour taste in both our mouths.
The good news, I did not get the cough. Bad news, the spec was shit. Why is Nex moving?
The other special attack in the smoke phase is the dash. She'll start by winding up a pitch facing the direction to avoid before dashing down it and completely breaking the camera's controls along with our center of gravity.
Ah, fuck. That freaking killed me.
Oh my god.
The tell for this attack is her line, "There is no escape." But what Nex doesn't realize is she's the one in prison, not us.
Next, there's no escape. I'm trying to... Nex is trying to escape, but she can't find one, Taryn.
She can't find the exit.
She's trying to find an escape, but it's just, there's nothing to be found. Aw, shit. I was making a joke, and then I screwed up the 5-tip.
Once Nex loses 20% of her health, the minion becomes vulnerable and one of us goes to take it out while the other tanks the boss.
What is she? Why is she
Taryn,
going to
seriously?
No, she walks straight to you.
That shouldn't happen.
I know it shouldn't. I don't understand why she did there is no escape and then walked straight over there.
She would have gone to you, I'm assuming. Okay, she's been reset.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Whose idea was it to have the girlfriend be the tank? Well, in all honesty, we both do our fair share of tanking throughout the fight. In our budget gear, not only do we take a lot of damage, but the fight takes that much longer as well. Time spent healing is time spent not hitting the boss, and when there's only 2 of us, that's basically a 50% damage decrease.
So here's the plan, Darren.
Okay.
When the boss appears,
Yeah.
we're gonna hit the boss.
Yeah.
The boss is gonna die.
We really have to stretch our supplies to their limits in order to make them last the entire fight. Even the good attempts take upwards of 10 minutes to get to the final phase. There are 4 minions, which means in an ideal world, we should each tank 2, and the first ones were by far the easiest for me to learn since we get to them the most often.
I'm resetting her. Oh, she's
Okay.
pissed.
I'm not going to kill the minion, but I will tell you that Vorky is not
Oh.
letting up.
Tanking next involves a lot of resetting her, but we do that plenty in the shadow phase, so I'll save the explanation for then. In the meantime, my boyfriend has killed the smoke minion, and it's time to protect from missiles and throw on our crossbows.
Embrace the darkness. Taste the rainbow. I could totally film a Skittles commercial.
Next is shadow attacks in the second phase deal more damage the closer you are to her, so that's why we're using ranged. Unfortunately, our crossbows don't shoot far enough to stand at the maximum range, so instead we have to take this ridiculous run back and forth approach to cut back on the damage. But that said, we still have one trick up our sleeves being in the ammunition that we're firing.
I wouldn't mind being done sooner, if that makes sense. Hey, I got one too. We take those.
Ruby-tipped enchanted bullets are a special type of magic bolt that has a chance of dealing percentage-based damage on a successful proc. I like to think of it as a critical hit of sorts, but basically every time we fire a bolt, there's about a 6% chance that we hit a 100. The bolts aren't called blood sacrifice for nothing though, and that 100 comes at a price. They also take a percentage of our health in the process. Since we're trying to conserve supplies, we try and keep our health lower so that the procs don't take as much away, but we also try and stay high enough that Nex doesn't take us out either. Needless to say, hearing the sound of a Ruby proc is the biggest dopamine rush in this entire game, and no one can tell me otherwise.
Got a spec.
Nice.
Got 2 specs.
Nice. Love that for us.
Got another spec. Using my range pot for the first time, just realizing. Clearly don't need them. Don't need no money when you spec like that, honey. Another spec.
Holy shit.
I have basically done half my health and damage to myself. I got another spec. Ow. This is Spec City.
The 2 special attacks in this phase are Fear the Shadow and Darken My Shadow. Despite what the name implies, there is nothing to fear from the shadow. The attack spawns a shadow under your feet that will engulf you if you don't step off it in time.
There's nothing to fear but fear itself. And the shadow.
But since we're running back and forth anyways, we rarely got hit by it. On the other hand, Darken My Shadow is a whole other story. During this special attack, the closer you are to her, the darker the screen gets, and you essentially get dealt damage over time for each tick you spend next to her. This shouldn't be a problem per se, since we're attacking from range anyways, but Nex has this cute and quirky habit of rushing at us to try and fight us using melee every now and again. This is where the fight gets a lot more technical and the real girlfriend stress test really begins.
Dude, that's like a normal fucking reset. Like, ish.
A normal-ish reset. Not to be confused with a fake reset.
See, that one was a good one.
Now is probably as good a time as any to apologize for the metronome you may have heard in the background while we're fighting her. As I've come to learn from this boss, RuneScape is secretly a rhythm game that plays at 100 beats per minute. Each beat on the metronome is a tick in the game, and we use it to keep track of the fight. I used to shred through supplies before I learned to 5-tick, and the only reason that was possible was thanks to the incessant ticking noise you've probably been hearing in some of our clips.
Do you hear something? No.
If it's any consolation, we both hate it too.
Just doing everything I can.
This is driving me nuts. I gotta turn this off.
So anyways, Nex is one of only a handful of enemies in the game that can run. As players, we have the ability to toggle between walking and running. I mentioned before how the game is just a bunch of squares in a grid, right? When walking, the player moves 1 square at a time, but while running, we're able to move 2. For the most part, as long as there's a place to go, we can outrun pretty much anything that comes after us. But Nex is an exception to that rule.
Run, 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 run.
So in order to keep our distance from her in this phase, we have to confuse her.
This is the scary one. Yay.
That's what it's supposed to look like, so.
So let's run the numbers. Nex's maximum range is 10 tiles, and since she's running 2 tiles per game tick, she can cover those tiles in only 5 ticks. If 5 ticks pass after Nex starts running and she hasn't found her target, she'll return to her starting position. Standing at the maximum range away from her, we can stall for 4 ticks before she makes it to us. On the 5th tick, the 2 of us can both hide underneath her, which I can only imagine plays out something like a cartoon. If done correctly, she should go right back to the middle. If not, then chances are that death is imminent.
Move, Terran,
Oh,
move.
fuck,
No,
fuck, fuck,
Terran.
no.
Oh no. Terran, run.
Fuck.
Oh,
I'm
it's
teleporting,
over.
I'm
It's
teleporting,
over.
Resetting next is one of the many important tricks in making a duo kill possible, and it has a super steep learning curve. It took me forever to get the hang of it, and many attempts were lost to me being too slow or not counting properly. My extremely patient boyfriend tried everything to help me, which is why my screen is plastered in tile markers and colorful squares. All in all, once it finally clicked, I was able to reset her consistently and he could breathe a sigh of relief.
The bow is thirsty. There we go. That's what resets are supposed to look like.
After another 20% of damage, the minion becomes vulnerable, and once again, I hang back to reset over and over so he can get us to the next phase.
Umbra's magnetic strip is a little worn down, so sometimes you have to swipe Umbra a couple more times, you know, to get her to work properly.
Uh-huh.
And down.
Next comes what is, in my opinion, the worst phase of the fight, the blood phase. This phase took the longest for us to get down, and by us, I mean me. The thing about blood spells is that they have lifesteal. On top of that, she's using blood barrage, which hits in a 3x3 area around your target. What this means is that the blood phase is an uphill battle because Nex is constantly healing herself off the damage she deals to you. Not only are we having to stay aggressive, but we have to constantly avoid sitting next to each other to avoid the AoE.
I'm separating.
Okay. I'd like to win you back.
For months, we could not topple the blood phase wall, and I swear all I heard were gripes from him about how we needed to clean up our play. I had no idea what the hell he was talking about until we sat down and analyzed my footage, and oh boy was I embarrassed. I need to just take a moment here to laugh at the fact that the two of us were essentially analyzing game tapes like this was some kind of professional sport we were playing. Nonetheless, it became super obvious why the blood phase was a wall, and it came down to yours truly spending more time drinking potions than swinging my sword.
You're praying the wrong thing. That's why this is happening.
Oh my god, that
You've been
makes
praying
so
the
much
wrong thing this
sense.
whole time. Terran, that was such a good attempt.
When going into this box, we bring a rainbow coalition of different potions. The green and blue ones are stat boosts for our combat stats, but the ones I want to focus on are the yellow and pink ones. The yellows are called brews and heal HP by 16 points per dose. They're extremely useful because each potion contains 4 doses, which comes out to be 64 health per inventory slot. That's a pretty damn good deal, but it comes with a cost.
The fact that we've already fought 2 siphons and we're at 57 HP bothers me.
They lower all your offensive stats with each sip. That's where the pink potions come in. These are called super restores and they bring your stats back up with the added benefit of also restoring some prayer points. The ratio to follow is that for every 3 sips of brew, you'll need to take 1 sip of restore to get your stats back up. You'll also need to boost them with the other potions as well.
How many brews did you go into that phase with? Like, I was doing really good brew-wise.
I had 1 full and then I had 3 doses.
Yeah, so I went into the minion with 4 full.
With that long chemical explanation out of the way, the reason the blood phase is such a wall was because I was busy frantically sipping potions to get health back but lowering my stats, which then resulted in more sipping to restore and boost. Of course, I kept getting hit in the process, which resulted in more sipping to get healthy, and I think you get the idea. Keep in mind that this entire time, Nex is healing off of me, while my poor boyfriend is barely breaking even on the damage front.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm leaving.
I just died with 21 HP.
In a really convoluted way, this is just trickled down Nexonomics. I'm not gonna pretend that it was an easy fix, but with weeks of practice, I got comfortable being at a lower health and switched from killing our DPS to the boss.
Siphon, we're at 41. Going really great.
All of this, and I haven't even mentioned the blood special attacks yet. I told you this was a long fight, didn't I? The first one is called Siphon, and it involves Nex summoning a blood reaver to attack us. If you hit Nex during the Siphon, surprise, surprise, it heals her. Additionally, the reaver will die at the beginning of her next Siphon, and any health he has left will go to Nex, so taking him out is a high priority. The other special is called Sacrifice, and go figure, a player gets marked to be sacrificed. If they don't get far enough away from her, they get hit hard, causing Nex to heal from the damage.
It's me, I'm a sacrifice. I'm being sacrificed to the gods of Zaros. Not a good place to be.
Aside from the fact that there's something just inherently terrifying about turning completely red, I struggled a lot with the sacrifice move because of my slow reflexes.
Okay, who's gonna be sacrificed? Be aware, it's
You.
me. It's always me these days.
I'm aware that it's you.
Ironically, those same slow reflexes are why I was so good at not hitting her during the Siphon, but either way, there were a lot of growing pains that came down to the blood phase.
Solve this. Oh,
I know.
Terran. There are times when it's just like so clearly not a good time to spec.
It was always such a relief to get Nex down to 40% health so we could go start wailing on the minion and finally put the blood phase on ice.
Step out.
Range.
You're safe.
He loves me.
The fourth phase is the ice phase, and it's my personal favorite. She can hit hard, but there's also less pressure while healing since there's no more lifesteal. Her two special attacks are Ice Prison and Contain This. The former is clearly next lashing out for being stuck in her own ice prison, but it's fairly easy to deal with as your teammate just needs to hit one of the icicles to break you out. It does deactivate your prayer though, so be mindful of that.
Okay. This time, neither of us is gonna get left in an ice prison.
The Contain move is the one I look forward to because next throws up icicles surrounding her and we throw on our crossbow. We're always hoping for that lucky ruby proc, but they usually happen few and far between. In the grand scheme of things, the ice phase is more of a glorified smoke phase where next hits harder, although I much prefer that to her coughing all over me.
Wait, here we go. Okay, final phase. Oh, I'm in ice prison. Thank you. Okay. Pray. What do we pray? Magic, I guess?
Once that minion is down and out, we're finally done with the elemental nonsense and special attacks. However, we still have the final phase to deal with.
The minion is down. We did it. Oh wait, there's a whole other phase? What the hell?
It's a whole thing.
Since when?
Oh my god.
Wait a minute.
Right from the start, she heals 500 health, putting her back up to around a third of her maximum health. This last stretch is the ultimate endurance phase, and it's the reason we've had to be so stingy with our supplies. Next attacks like normal, hitting with spells and slapping whoever she's facing, with the caveat that now she uses prayers too. So those overhead prayers that have been keeping us alive the entire fight, well now Next is giving us a taste of our own medicine.
Oh, I almost killed myself. It's crossbow.
Okay.
I gotta focus up or I'm gonna die.
The first one is called Soul Split, and I guess it's a prayer that he used to have access to in the other RuneScape. I don't really understand what it actually does besides heal the boss a portion of damage dealt, but that's not even the one to watch out for. The real tricky one is Deflect Melee, which is like our protection prayer, but instead of just negating damage, she reflects it back at us. Many attempts at the boss have failed thanks to Girlfriend Chaos and hurting myself while she's deflecting. When the boss is immune to melee, we throw on our crossbows and pray to Zaros for more ruby procs.
Nice spec turn.
The thing that makes the final phase hard is that it's just a big endurance fight after already enduring 4 phases of endurance. Next better counter lucky stars that I'm so prone to misclicks under pressure, because that's the only reason she's still breathing. Saving our supplies for this phase is key because she hits like a truck. When things go correctly, the most dangerous thing that can happen is the player protecting from melee gets hit for a full damage magic attack. Scary, but manageable. Of course, things rarely go according to plan around here, and with all the moving parts, there's always a mistake to be made.
Oh my god, I'm gonna die. I don't have any way to heal.
I'm trying to help.
There's something I haven't mentioned about this boss yet that's important for the entire fight, but even more so during this final phase. It's called 5 ticking, and it ticks me off. So you may be asking, what the hell is a tick? I already mentioned the metronome and how it's basically the tempo of the game's clock. Everything happens in ticks, and each beat is the game updating. The deeper you go, the more complicated it gets, so I've learned not to ask too many questions. But for all intents and purposes, killing Next just asks us to understand that she attacks every 4 ticks.
I think I thought I was doing pretty damn good with the step unders, to be honest with you. Like, I feel like there were a couple times, like, I think the mage attacks I still screw up now and then because her hands are where I'm trying to click usually.
Exactly.
With that in mind, our 2 main weapons both hit every 5 ticks. We can actually slow Next's attack down to 5 ticks by stepping under her before attacking. This stalls Next while she can't find us, and we get to trade hits 1 for 1. Since we're already splitting the damage between 2 people instead of a bigger group, every sip of potion and hit we take is that much more crucial to success. Slowing Next down to 5 ticks instead of 4 may not seem like much, but it's actually a 20% damage decrease. Not to mention, over the course of a 10-minute fight, it can really add up. We already can't afford to make big mistakes since we take her down so slowly, but letting her get in more hits than us just doesn't seem fair.
That's not what I was trying to do, sorry.
It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Just breathe.
5 ticking the final phase is arguably the hardest part of the fight for me at the moment. While I understand each phase, we've still yet to put it all together for a kill. We've had plenty of times where we've gotten close, but it's always just not quite enough.
I'm dead. She's got 48 health turn.
No!
Oh.
0.6! 0.6!
Unfortunately, at the time of writing all this, we still aren't quite there yet. The narration, the clips, and the project as a whole are all locked away in a vault waiting for a conclusion. Writing all of this is just a desperate attempt at proving to myself how well I know the fight and trying to build the confidence to secure our first kill. But the good news for you is that if you're watching this right now, then something must have finally happened.
Both hands. For some reason I brought my imbued heart. Fuck. So I'm down a brew.
Okay.
But at least I can rebuff my heart halfway through the fight.
There
I
you
guess.
go.
Of course, the time where I'm absolutely killing it with supplies, I forget an entire brew.
Oh
Bring this
no.
dumbass heart with me, but whatever. You got a lot of brews.
Yep.
Let's get this
sipping up
minion
to
down
full right
ASAP.
now.
Oh, I'll help you.
Thank you.
Nice. Help. Thank you. Go and do your stuff. She's coming for me. She's on you? No?
She's on
oh,
you
I need
now.
to get my prayer up.
Sorry.
It's fine. Get my prayer up. Nice specs. Some chance to do this. More hit. More good one. Oh, she's deflecting. Oh shit.
Okay.
Careful. Hit, please. Please. Run away.
Run.
We got it.
We got it.
We did it.
We got it. Oh my god! On our very first kill, the two of us managed to unlock 7 out of the 11 combat achievements, along with my own first ever grandmaster task, which I'm super proud of. That can go right up on the shelf next to my flying squirrel pet, thank you very much.
Okay, no, I've actually
We got
missed
7 out of 11 next combat achievements.
In
just now.
one kill.
On our first kill.
We are so good at
Taryn,
that fight because
no
we've been doing this
one
for 6
has
months.
as much fun in this game as you and me. Okay.
Now remember, this was supposed to be a money-making method.
I have died in that room 67 times.
We're down hundreds of millions of coins, but we did get the kill. One kill isn't enough to make our money back, but it's not about that. It's about learning something together as a couple.
You're cool.
You were like, run, because I didn't even realize that she was dead. Because I was
'Cause
just like, just stay in the fight, and you're like, run. I'm like, okay. So
As soon as
clicked
I saw
away.
the experience drop, I knew that she was dead. I was
Yeah.
like positive she was dead. So I was like, just run.
I was like,
Besides, I'm thinking I want a T-bone now too, so we'll be back in no time. But for now, it's time to finally leave the ice prison and go home.